Mixing turn-based tactics with great RPG traits, Lightbulb Crew brings us a game that, for now, is the best turn-based tactics experience of the year. My name is Catalina, and this is the video review for Othercide. For the last few years, we haven't seen much difference between the different releases in the turn-based tactics genre. It even seemed like absolutely every single one was a mere XCOM clone, or that they were merely cheating and paraphrasing from their classmates' homework. Othercide brings us something different, captivating and intriguing from the very beginning, which stands apart from everything we were seeing, and it knows how to overcome the genre's limitations. With a striking visual style, mixing demonic creatures and others with masks like those worn by doctors during the Black Plague, we must defend the veil that's slowly being corrupted by the child who was changed into a being of unfathomable power by the suffering. The first major difference between Othercide and other games of a similar style is the characters with whom we'll play. Our army will be entirely made up of female characters called daughters, whom we control after our mother's sacrifice when she faced the child, which we are shown in the tutorial. It's also here that we're shown the workings of one of the most important mechanics, the timeline, to know at what moment each character acts according to the directions given. To overcome the challenges we'll face, the daughters have 3 different and well-defined combat styles, each with its own advantages and disadvantages. Firstly, we have the most defensive style, which is the shield bearer, a sort of tank with high health, a lot of armor, and mostly special defensive abilities that will allow us to protect the rest of our team. Secondly, the blade master, who will have the DPS melee role with devastating attacks and strike evasion, which are complemented by mostly surprise attack special abilities. Lastly, we have the soul singer, who will deal distance DPS and, depending on the abilities we gain, will be able to quickly kill enemies while maintaining distance from the action or protect the rest of the team with interruption ability. We can gain XP as well as shards and vitae from each of our daughters' missions. Of course, to a greater challenge go greater rewards. The shards allow us to activate remembrances, which are permanent modifications that we unlock by achieving specific objectives. For example, by killing a certain number of enemies. Vitae, life in Latin, will let us germinate, recruit more daughters, and equip our available abilities with memory, damage, and armor reduction modifiers. Othercide's campaign has a progression system seldom seen in turn-based tactic games, the classic roguelike mode, where broadly speaking, losing is advancing. Once all of our daughters have died, the only thing left to do is start over, winning a large number of shards to invest them in the unlocked remembrances. At the beginning of the tutorial, we are given an idea of what the game is trying to show us, that both sacrifice and death have their own reward. In Othercide, there is no way of healing a daughter without sacrificing another. That is to say, kill one to heal another. And part of the sacrificed soul will be reflected in the one we heal in the form of a specific boost, like more damage or health points, that will be the character's trait. This way of healing makes us think about which available daughter we're going to sacrifice to buff another, because it must be done with a daughter of the same or a higher level than the one to be healed. This means that, like any sacrifice, it must have real weight. The different synapses, the battles we fight to gain XP, are quite quick and easy to solve. They are no more than typical XP and vitae farming battles to improve our characters. But if we're not careful, we might find ourselves in tight spots, especially with the final bosses of each stage of the campaign. The 4 bosses are a perfect combination of a puzzle to solve and a tactical challenge, with a truly terrifying design. If we don't have our equipment in good condition, it's only a matter of a few turns until we lose, without even damaging the boss. As our daughters go up in level, we unlock different abilities, which may be instant, delayed, interruption, or reactive actions. Instant and delayed actions cost us action points, which we see portrayed in the timeline with a first limit at 50 points and a second at 100. This constantly sets the pace that each character will develop, indicated by a picture of each or an icon in the case of the action. Interruptions or reactive actions will allow us to create combinations between all the daughters, saving time and avoiding damage from the creatures. However, they will cost you a health point percentage, depending on the type of action. For instance, an interruption ability ability might cost 10% of the HP, while a reaction ability costs 5% of the HP. All these actions are useful, but we must remember that we have no way to heal. The visuals are amazing, with a gothic feel and definite Lovecraftian note in a grayscale with blood boldly highlighted in red, which at times made me remember clips from Behemoth or Dimmer Borgir, although thankfully Othercide isn't as explicit as the band's video. The music perfectly matches each stage of the game, alternating between a heavy and dark bass to impactful riff during high-risk moments, like the first boss fight. In turn-based tactical games, having complete control of the camera is quite helpful to be able to place oneself in space and calculate both the attacks and coverages we might choose. However, this isn't possible in Othercide. The camera can't be panned, which often restricted my view of the field, and while the zoom is good both for getting closer and further away and the movement is quite smooth, I missed being able to pan and have a complete view of the field. We also lack a coverage system, which is logical since the game centers on a roguelike progression. However, if you tend to speculate with high or low coverages, you won't be able to have this kind of system in this game. Another weak spot is the repetitiveness of the enemies and their way of moving according to the difficulty of the mission. Several times I passed automatically by remembering the movement pattern. While I don't consider it something bad, it's worth highlighting, like any game with RPG elements, that there is a lot of information to handle, from the damage to the action points and the different percentages. And remembering them all can be quite a chore. In the last few years, maybe in the last 5, we've seen a resurgence of the turn-based tactics genre with many good games, but none really stood out from the pack. Othercide manages to pull ahead. Lightbulb Crew did an excellent job, not only on the technical aspect, but the game can be enjoyed in absolutely any modern PC as well as every console. But the aesthetics are also striking. I have no doubt that in a few years, the French studio will become one of the benchmarks for tactical games. And if they're a little more ambitious, they could launch a strategy game that is a little more complex in every respect. Othercide is very enjoyable, both for those who love tactics and those who are unaware of the genre and want to start playing. A campaign that offers several playability options, a game style encouraging endless hours of immersion together with captivating aesthetic, especially if you're a Lovecraft fan, and a soundtrack that envelops you in the darkness created by the atmosphere. This is a combination that meets and exceeds any expectation. But the most important part, and what I enjoyed the most, was how it shows that losing and restarting is not wrong, but that it will help you improve, as well as the mechanic of choosing what character to sacrifice when facing a new battle. It's probably a little hasty of me to say, but Othercide is without a doubt the best turn-based tactics game of the year so far, and an experience that no one should miss. Othercide earns a score of 9. Its best parts are the campaign building, the roguelike style progression system, and its nightmarish gothic aesthetic. Its main issues are the lack of camera movement controls and that in many situations the behavior of the enemies becomes repetitive. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications. Follow us on social media and visit www.malditosnerds.com to stay up to date with the latest video game news. Thanks for joining us, and see you next time.